Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What in the world is happening in our God-blessed country? A lengthy pandemic decimating our economy and taking over 121,000 precious American lives, followed by a horrific murder of Mr. George Floyd by a bad cop, leading to nationwide protests and demonstrations of people wanting to be heard. Sadly, all of this has been overshadowed by the violence, looting, destruction, and lawless mayhem in America's major cities. We've seen weak and feckless Democrat government leaders acquiesce to anti-American warlords, setting up their own countries at the expense of residents and shopkeepers. This is taking place under the influence of shadowy anti-American organizations and individuals. You know who they are, so I'll not distinguish them by saying their names. America is awake and willing to address major concerns, despite the hundreds of heroic police officers who have been injured, paralyzed, or killed just doing their job for us. Violent punks continue hijacking the sad event. That began all this foment we grieve over. Their goal is to literally tear down and destroy our history and freedoms. America is under attack. We must wake up before it's too late. These evil forces of destruction are showing us that we can't stop them. Or can we? Jonathan Witherspoon, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, said this: who was it that said, I believe it was Jonathan Witherspoon, in fact, said, a republic once equally poised must either preserve its virtue or lose its liberty.
I would encourage you, with great respect, to speak with clarity, to call for your congregations to understand the power of freedom and liberty. And as Jonathan Witherspoon, who happened to be a member of Congress and a signer of the Declaration of Independence and a signer of the Constitution, stated very clearly, a republic once equally poised must either preserve its virtue or lose its liberty.
A republic once equally poised must either preserve its virtue or lose its liberty. I don't know his position on slavery at that time, though even as a minister and president of Princeton, I'm sure he had his flaws. Yet this message rings true as we view in lifetime our nation's loss of virtue and liberty. The key purpose of government is to reward the doer of good and punish the doer of evil. Today, the forces of division and anarchy are rejecting this purpose, calling for the defunding and/or ending of police. While Republicans are offering workable and common-sense justice reform, the Democrat leadership digs in and saying no to any negotiation. Yet they continue to support or remain silent about the senseless destruction of our cities and history. Chances are, if you were to list the greatest Americans, you may think of George Washington, Teddy Roosevelt, and Ulysses Grant, men who have made tremendous positive impacts on our country. and in doing so, the entire history of humanity. Yet this week, enlightened leftists have gone after statues of these men, attempting to rewrite history and tarnish America's overwhelmingly positive legacy for humanity. As with other human, these men are not perfect, but none of these monuments were erected to honor their shortcomings or faults. They were erected to honor their extraordinary contributions to society. These men are responsible for some of the most important distinctives: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the ending of slavery, the victory over the Confederacy, conservation of America's greatest natural treasures. Ironically, the rights these vandals and anarchists enjoy, like the right to assemble, would not be possible if not for the very men they ignorantly tear down. Even the Lincoln Memorial was vandalized recently. The great emancipator, who was the first president nominated and elected by the party formed in my district in 1854 under the Oaks in Jackson, Michigan, the Emancipation Republican Party. Make no mistake, this is an attack on America itself, not an attempt to make reforms or anything else the defenders of these cowardly acts may claim. Few in the Democratic Party have spoken out against these acts, which leads me to wonder, at what point did pride in America become a partisan issue? Is it because these anarchist acts are taking place in Democrat-run cities? Is it because there are the same people that they have directed all their so-called anti-poverty, social welfare, big government will take care of you programs toward? Or is it because Democrat leadership fears crossing the big-moneyed, sinister individuals and organizations masterminding radical societal change? What exactly is the end game of these attempts to erase and rewrite history? Could it be the destruction of the American idea or America itself? I call for my colleagues, Democrat and Republican, and America-loving patriots to stand with me as proud Americans in our fight against anarchy and ignorance. May we be people who, with the courage and humility, echo the words of our framers in pledging our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor to defending and perfecting America. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.